What's up, everyone? Welcome to NeverLag. What do I say after that? This may not be a good idea.
Oh my god.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to NeverLag. I'm one of your co-hosts, Zach, also known as the man who fell in the pit, and I'm joined today by my illustrious counterpart, Levi, the lag man, the NeverLag himself. How's it going, Levi?
It's going good. Going good. Great to be here on another Monday.
Another Monday, another dollar, assuming you work on Mondays.
And you make $1.
and you make at least $1. Yeah. So, this show is NeverQuest. It's a show where we're on some type of quest every single week. We talk about games we've been playing. We kind of generally shoot the breeze, hang out and talk about all things video game related. So yeah. I don't know what's new in your world, but I just had my copy of Elden Ring's Steelbook case delivered. So for those of us who are watching week to week, I've had quite the odyssey of pre-ordering Horizon Forbidden West Collector's Edition, and they didn't order enough, and still haven't gotten it from Best Buy.
Classic.
And then I ordered the Collector's Edition, or not the Collector's Edition, but just the Steelbook Edition with Best Buy. If you pre-ordered Elden Ring, they included the Steelbook, and of course I show up to Best Buy and they don't have enough Steelbooks, so they had to send it to me. It took about a week and a half, but pretty thrilled to have gotten it. At this point, I had given up any hope. Best Buy's website still says that they don't know when it's going to be delivered, and yet it's delivered. So Best Buy doesn't know what's happening, but I got my Steelbook, so I'm happy.
They're like they're gonna give you a call today and be like, "So sorry, it's still it's on its way. We promise."
Yeah, you know what? If they're going to do that, I'll just pretend I didn't get it. See if I can get two Steelbooks and then sell it at crazy costs. I don't know how much you can make for a Steelbook on eBay. At least $20.
At least you got it. At least you got it. My big concern with that whole thing, because this was actually basically free through Best Buy. Those who pre-ordered Elden Ring through Best Buy, they were giving just a complimentary Steelbook out of the goodness of their hearts. I don't know what happened on the back end or why this happened, because it's a different Steelbook than what came with the actual collector's edition. So I'm not sure where the origin of this Steelbook is, but my concern was, you get what you pay for, and they're going to get me to pre-order this through Best Buy, and then they're going to be like, "Oh shucks, we're all sold out of those. We didn't have enough."
Pretty low incentive for them to actually make it right, but they did. So to their credit, I have to say the Steelbook for the non-collector's edition Elden Ring, I think looks way better than the collector's edition Steelbook. I'll add a picture of the collector's edition right here. I don't know what you think, but I feel like the collector's one just does not look as cool.
Yeah. I didn't care for it at all. Yeah, I have seen it. It's just like brown. It looks like leather brown with a runic symbol on it. And it was just kind of like, it didn't really do anything for me. And then I saw this and I'm like, good Lord, why did they not use this one everywhere? Like the
artwork is so much better.
Yeah. It's the artwork that's been used for every thumbnail from here to Timbuktu and a lot of promotional stuff. And it's significantly cooler. I would not have really lined up for the other one. So
yeah, it's part of the reason I didn't go for the collector's edition, because for my favorite games, I tend to go overboard, and I love the statues generally. The statue that came with the Elden Ring collectors was cool, but not cool enough that I felt like I had to have it. And then that plus the Steelbook not being one I was a super big fan of, I just decided to go for the free edition with this, and I'm pretty happy with that choice, I have to say.
Very nice. You've started your Steelbook collection. It begins, and it will be a problem for us, I imagine, going forward, because
for the rest of
becoming
time.
a theme. Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, speaking of my curse, to never get the pre-orders, to never get the editions I want, that continues with Gran Turismo 7, which just came out on Friday or Thursday night at midnight, our time. And I guess I didn't pre-order this one, so I can't complain about this one nearly as much. But they have a Steelbook edition at Best Buy for Gran Turismo, and they ran out of it. They also ran out of every PS5 copy at every Best Buy in our area, every GameStop in our area, every Target and Walmart. There's one Target that's like an hour away that had a couple copies, and I was like, I'm not driving that far just for the average PS5 copy. So I just got it digitally, which
It was how far
I
away?
like 45 minutes to an hour. It was somewhere. It was like South Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when Amazon is a
Not to
thing.
dox ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
We'll bleep that.
So yeah, I was kind of surprised how I guess I can't really speak to whether or not this is just Gran Turismo 7 selling gangbusters, or if they expected it not to sell terribly well and didn't get a bunch of copies, if this was merely a production issue. But yeah, I encountered the same thing. I did pre-order it, and I went in to pick up my copy, and it was the last one, like the last one they were holding, because there was like a minor issue. It wasn't even an issue. The disc was rattling around inside, and I was like, ugh, if this is scratched up or anything, like, can I bring it back? What are we doing here? And she was like, that's literally, we'd have to order one, like that's it. And I was like, oh, for the Steelbook, right? You have just the normal copy though, right? And she says, no, we just sold the last Gran Turismo 7 copy like 10 minutes ago. And then you looked around and couldn't find it anywhere locally. So I'm not sure what the situation is there, because I don't think that's been the case with these other big releases, right?
No. So
I
that's why I
guess.
don't think it's just that it's selling gangbusters. Because if you look, I mean, Elden Ring has sold incredibly well. I don't know the specific stats, but I know it's been like competing on Steam with like a lot of live service games, and it's I think it's dethroned Cyberpunk with all-time consecutive players. So it's done, I think, more sales than were even expected. And I remember going to try and get the collector's edition of Elden Ring. They had some copies at all of the different places I was checking for PS5, even if they were sold out of the specific Steelbook things that I wanted. But with Gran Turismo, I was looking morning of. It was like 10 or 11 in the morning on Friday. So a lot of these stores had been open an hour, maybe two. And they were completely sold out. So I have to imagine they just didn't get much inventory. Like, I mean, Gran Turismo is popular, right? So maybe I'm just underestimating how many people love this game, but it didn't, I didn't see any lines. I didn't see any signage. If you think about when the Switch launched, there were lines out the door. When the Switch OLED, same thing. They had like people in the store
Yeah,
directing you.
I don't know that Gran Turismo 7 is on par with the Switch launch. So
Right. That's my point. And so going in there and just seeing it completely wiped out, it makes me feel like it has to be either they misplanned it, or maybe there's, I don't know. In the COVID days, I never know like what types of supply chain issues are hitting, but I imagine it's the same materials to make the discs and the cases that the other games are. So there's not some special polyphony automobile components going into these plastic cases
that you know of.
that I know of, which is very little. So maybe
Yeah, who
that's it.
knows? I think one size doesn't fit all here, and all these game manufacturing places are not, not every developer uses the same place. So who knows? Maybe they just didn't make as many copies for whatever reason. Maybe they just want to sell more digitally, right? More conspiracies. They just want us to buy digital so we can't resell it.
Yeah, it worked for me.
I don't know. At least
So.
you were able to you got your copy through Amazon though, right?
No, I just bought it digitally. I didn't want to. So Amazon was telling me it was a 5-day wait, which is pretty high for like most things I get in the 2-day period. It was saying 5 days, and I wanted to play it this weekend, so I sprung and got it digitally.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. I hadn't put two and two together because you were like, "Oh, I ordered it through Amazon," and then like instantly you were playing, and I never even thought twice about it.
I was
Because my
purposefully
brother he couldn't get one either. So
Yeah, I was purposefully surreptitious and furtive because I knew you would be disappointed
there you go.
that I sprung for a digital copy.
Yeah,
I was
I'm
disappointed in
very
myself.
disappointed in you.
I just want to say to our listeners, I'm sorry for supporting digitally and not physical. It's
Now,
time
if
to
I
come
lose my
clean. Yeah,
copy, who will I borrow it from?
exactly. Maybe this was, yeah. If you lose your copy now, I have an excuse to keep playing. But
You've really let me down. Yes. Okay. Well, that's a good segue into what we've been playing, right? I think
yeah,
that's pretty much what you've been playing.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
I like it a lot. Um, I I'm not 100% sure how to adequately summarize this yet. I feel like this game looks really good, and yet it doesn't quite feel next gen. But it's kind of tough to say because I feel like it kind of it kind of feels next gen sometimes, and then at other times it feels like I'm playing like a game on the PS4 Pro. It always looks good. Like I think this is a really good looking game. I haven't had any frame rate issues to date. Um, and I've enabled the ray tracing so that when it's playing the cinematic clips, like you get the really nice reflections. Um, so I think it looks really good, but there's something, especially when you're playing, I think there are certain assets. It's like they put a lot of effort into certain aspects of the visual fidelity. And then there are certain aspects it's like they didn't do any work on. And sometimes you don't notice them at all. Like when you're driving 130 miles down the track, you're not looking at the far edge of a mountain. So it's just kind of this background aesthetic that looks great. Or like the trees blurring by is not too bad. But when you're really focusing while driving around on like the fidelity of the leaves or of the mountains in the background at times, or of like the crowd, whenever there's people like around the track or elsewhere, there are certain things that they look pretty like bad enough that it actually really pulls you out of it. But it's tricky to say how much that impacts my experience because at least half the time I don't even notice. But when I do notice, it's like, oh, this suddenly feels kind of dated. So that's been a weird experience. The gameplay itself has been really fun. I feel like the loop is as fun as I remember it. The kind of the mix of components of going to the cafe, basically getting a quest, a multi-step quest from the cafe owner Luca, and then going off and doing races or going to other areas within your little map to do various tasks, tuning up your car, going back and racing, unlocking new cars. That whole loop is incredibly satisfying. The driving mechanics feel as good as ever. Um, yeah, I'm liking it a lot. I'm curious what you think because I feel like you have a lot more of a history with it than I do. So I'd like to hear what the lag man thinks.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know everyone has tuned in to listen to me complain some more about highly anticipated releases.
Why do you think our viewer
I'll
is here?
start. Yeah. So I'll start with I'll start with the good, the positive here. As far as playing the game, moment to moment gameplay and just the structure of how the game is built, like how you interact with it, right? The home world, all of it that harkens back to original where Gran Turismo came from, the single player campaign, all of that. I'm enjoying all of it. It's so great to be back in Gran Turismo. I pretty much like everything they've done here. Granted, a lot of it is just how Gran Turismo was back in the day. Like, just reminds me of going to the license center in Gran Turismo 3 and trying to get silver and gold, right? And then you have your races, your tune shop. It's all very kind of par for the course for how the series used to be before Gran Turismo Sport. But even the things they've introduced, the cafe, I'm enjoying so far. It's a little bit different than how I even thought it was going to be from the previews that we saw. I thought it was going to be very um, not entirely peripheral, but not integral to the campaign. I thought it was going to be kind of like a side quest type thing. You go there, you find out more about cars, you chill, you look at your cars, you talk to people. I was a little surprised to find that the menus are quite literally your quests in this game. Like they are your objectives. He gives you a menu to go do 3 races. You go do 3 races, and then you come back and talk to him, and he gives you another menu. So, um, I I I don't know. I guess I don't really have any complaint about that. It's different than how I thought it was going to be. Um, I guess it remains to be seen if that's how the entirety of the campaign will play out, or if at some point, yeah, I don't know if that'll change or not. But point is, I pretty much like everything that I've been playing. Um, I'm kind of glad that you brought up what you brought up, though, because a fairly major part of playing this game that I've noticed as well is this does not in any way feel next gen. Um, and it's just it just continues my train of sadness a little bit because these three games coming out within 2 weeks of each other were supposed to be just. Uh, it felt like they were going to be the true, the true second wave, second coming of next gen, which we got a taste of at the launch, I felt, and a pretty good taste at the launch of both the Series X and especially the PlayStation 5 with all the exclusives. A lot of games that came out day and date or just shortly after the PlayStation 5 truly were incredible looking and really felt next gen. They're those games you put in the system and you kind of pan the camera around and look at everything and go, ooh, how is this possible? And none of these recent games have done that for me. And it's the same here with Gran Turismo 7. And I'm a little bit more disappointed too, because Gran Turismo 7 to me, I mean, that's kind of part of the draw of Gran Turismo 7 is it's always been this technical showcase of fidelity and realism. Photorealism has always been the reaching goal of the Gran Turismo series, and it's always kind of been leading the way for whatever console generation it comes out during. And I noticed the exact same thing as you. I just, more often than not, when I'm playing this game, I told my brother, he was watching me, and I said, I played Project Cars 2 on PC 5-6 years ago, and it looked every bit the same as this, if not a little bit better, honestly, on PC. And so I didn't play a lot of Gran Turismo Sport, but especially the environments in this game, the tracks, um, the the grass off to the side, the walls, just the assets that are surrounding the track. I would not be shocked at all if these were almost pulled straight from Gran Turismo Sport and maybe touched up a little. Like, it just does not. I don't get the sense that these were built from the ground up at all for this game. And more often than not, when I'm playing this game, I feel like this is a PlayStation 4 game. So that has been very disappointing. You just kind of hope to kind of be dazzled by a Gran Turismo game when you turn it on. It's supposed to be sexy, right? You're looking at the cars and everything looks so real. And I've been pulled out of it a little bit by how not overly impressed, a little bit underwhelmed by the graphics side. So
yeah,
that's been a bummer.
I found there's moments that do feel very photorealistic. A lot of times they're the little cutscenes though, which is, you're kind of hoping for that in the gameplay. There are moments in the gameplay when you're driving where, like, especially with the dynamic weather, where you'll have moments that really feel great. The reflection on the cars will hit just right. The lighting is good. But then you have plenty of moments where that's not the case. And again, I think the fidelity of tree leaves is often a problem for me in this game. And then the people, anytime there's a stand with people, though, that might be the worst asset I've seen. Is like, there was one where there was a group of people and
I'll have to look.
They were like, their hands were kind of mannequin like, and it was really out of place for how much better many of the pieces looked. And so I think it's a really good looking game overall, but it doesn't hit the highs you would hope it would for a PS5 Gran Turismo experience. I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, is it bad enough to stop playing? No, not at all. This isn't a situation for me like I've had with Elden Ring or Horizon. It just feels like a PlayStation 4 game that maybe took too long in development. With the delays that we had, and I don't know, it just kind of felt like this was going to be a true marquee return to form for Gran Turismo, and I think in a lot of ways it is, but graphically it certainly did not hit the bar I was anticipating. So I'll have to keep a lookout for the crowd. Maybe they pulled the crowd straight from like Madden 2007 or something.
That's kind of what it feels like. Yeah, you'll have to let me know what you think.
Yeah, I do think the weather though is probably the highlight graphically. I do think the weather, when there is various weather in the game, it looks better. Whether that's because it's hiding some of the assets, maybe, but I do think the weather looks good. The rain, the clouds, all that kind of stuff is pretty impressive. So Anyways, I am enjoying it though. It's really nice to be back. It feels incredibly nostalgic to play a Gran Turismo game in 2022, and at its core, it does feel like, you know, my favorite, which was Gran Turismo 3. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that stands out to you that you enjoy about this game?
Yeah, I think the real emphasis on the culture of cars and the history of automobiles is really interesting. And this game is interesting because you can really feel the influence of the people who made it. I think there is a very strong reverence uh, present throughout the experience, and just a respect for cars as a part of humanity and the different cultures across the world. Um, that is really, I think, kind of special, and it feels transcendent comparative to other car games that I've played that are a bit more arcade. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a preference thing, but I think what makes Gran Turismo really kind of stand out and feel different is this reverence and respect for cars and for the culture. And as someone who's not a huge car person, I like cars. I think they're cool, but I'm not like a crazy, you know, gearhead type person. This is a cool game because it makes me feel like I'm part of the club. It doesn't feel like I'm too stupid to understand anything. It does a good balance of like having the cafe walk you through the history of, okay, now we're going to go collect some Camaros. And so you go and race in different parts of America against a bunch of these other American cars, and you have to use your own American car, maybe soup it up a little bit, and you unlock these Camaros. And then when you unlock the menu, like you go back to the cafe, and Luca starts explaining to you, you know, here's how the Camaros got started. You know, they were a rival to the Mustang, which was more successful at the time, but here's kind of what went into it. And then the later Camaros, you know, this one was, you know, beating certain sports cars, and it's just cool. It makes you feel like you understand it. It has a lot of depth to the information. You can go read paragraphs about each car, and I find myself sometimes doing that, which is, again, not the type of person I am day to day. So the fact that they do that in my mind means they've done a good job of immersing you in this experience. And it's kind of like when I play any other type of game, where like Subnautica or Breath of the Wild, where I feel like I'm in this fantasy world, or I'm stuck underwater. In this game, I feel like I'm a part of this car history. So it's really cool. I absolutely think it's worth playing. I do think it looks pretty dang good for the most part, but there's enough things that take away from that you might notice, and it's not quite to the next gen experience that we were teased with in late 2020, with a handful of experiences. And now it feels like a cross gen title to me, which I
Yeah,
think
yeah, it
we're just
does.
in this never
I'm
never
just
ending.
waiting for the PlayStation 5 generation to start, I guess, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it feels like we're in this never ending purgatory of next gen.
Yeah, it does.
And I'd like to think that it's nearly over, but I don't know. Hopefully God of War 2 breaks us from this, but the other part of me thinks that game started previous gen as well.
No, I think
I don't
I
know.
think
I don't
if
know.
anything, we can be hopeful that will be the last of, um, kind of mark the end of this cross generation purgatory we've been
Mm-hmm.
in that you mentioned, because all of these games, you know, at the end of the day, they started development before the PS5 came out. Whether or not they had dev kits at the time, or whatever, is, I suppose, irrelevant, because they're cross gen anyways. They're coming out on the PlayStation 4, so they have to account for that hardware.
Yep.
Um, and I believe God of War does mark the last one that we know of that was in development before the PS5 came out. So, you know, it feels like we keep saying next year it's going to be all next gen, and it's been a couple of years of that, and it's confusing when we got a taste of it, like you said, with some of those launch games, especially Ratchet and Clank last year, which I
Mm-hmm.
think really stands out as the one. If you had to pick one singular, truly, this is okay. Here's the PS5. It is here. This cannot run on a PS4. This is jaw-droppingly amazing to look at from a technical standpoint. That was Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and nothing's come close since then. So,
What's extra confusing is this
um,
isn't just an anomaly with Ratchet, though. Like, I think Ratchet is the best example we've had of a purely PS5 next gen title that's making full use of the hardware and could not run on any of the previous gen consoles. But I think he saw that even with Astro's Playroom? Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
The little
yeah,
the small experience that came as part of the PS5, that felt incredibly next gen, visually, sound design, controller, haptic feedback settings, all of that. But I think the Demon Souls remake by Bluepoint was like a true 60 FPS high fidelity Souls game that like blew me away in terms of how good it looked. And now we have, I mean, Elden Ring,
visually
I
it was
think
stunning.
I like Elden
Yeah,
Ring better as a game overall, but visually they were doing what I kind of expected Elden Ring to be. And I mean, they released at the very beginning of this console. I know
yeah,
Elden Ring was being developed for the PS4 originally, but still I think that's 3 titles. I guess you could maybe argue Spider-Man Miles Morales looked kind of next gen too. I think that game looked pretty great from what I remember, but you got at least 3 titles that you could argue very much felt next gen. So it's just over the course of about a year, the first year of the launch, not maybe 9 months. So it's just kind of strange to see it like stall out, and we haven't had as many fully next gen looking titles since summer of last year. At this point, there might be things we haven't played, but as far as big releases go, that seems to be the case.
sure. Yeah. Yep. So, but to speak a little bit more to Gran Turismo, just some smaller tidbits. I think the sound design is excellent. I think they're
Mm-hmm.
whoever they're, you know how I'm sure a great deal of thought and even science goes into what sounds play when certain things happen. Right? They're trying to get those endorphins rolling in your brain. They are on point in this game. Like everything you do when you finish a race, just the clicks and the sounds and the dings and whatever it is. Um, it all is very well done. The music is also pretty cool. I've been enjoying a lot of the tracks in this game, which
Mm-hmm.
is fairly integral to the Gran Turismo experience as well. It's such a specific vibe that Gran Turismo hits, and they've continued to hit it. I think in this game,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's like a cross between um, rock and maybe modern pop or different things like that, even classical, but
Classical occasionally,
all mixed with elevator music somehow.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
Gran
totally.
Turismo music. So um
And
yeah,
for some
they've
reason
done
I
that
love it.
well.
Like I feel like on paper I
Yeah,
would not like that, but it works.
it works really well in the game. So um let's see what else have I enjoyed so far. Mostly
And
I've been working on the license portion of the game. I kind of just got started on that and kept going because I'm one of those people who, like, once there's a time to beat, I just will play it until until I
Mhm.
beat it. So I just finished last night the international B license, and I've got all of them gold up to that point. And I've done a little bit of the campaign, not too much. So I don't know what you've been focusing on.
Yeah, I finished the what is it, the national A or B. I finished the first license, the national B maybe. Um
Yeah, yeah.
and I got gold on all but 2 and silver on the other 2. And part of me wanted to complete them, and the other part of me just wanted to jump into the campaign. So after I got that first license, I've been doing the campaign since then. But plan to at some point go back, and I need to get like my international licenses still and whatnot. Uh, but yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it overall. You mentioned sound design. I think one of my favorite things is it's like these little touches that do make a game stand out. And whenever you finish a race and it shows you like your rewards and your credits add up, um, and your little collector's level goes up, there's like in the background
Yes.
the sound of like the car engine. You know, when you turn the engine off and you're sitting in quiet in your car by yourself, and there's kind of that like kink noise that is happening in the engine. I think it has something to do with like the engine contracting or constricting,
Cooling
when it
down.
heats, cooling down, and it like the metals are kind of coming back together. I don't know exactly how it works, but those sounds you hear, I had never in my life really thought about them, but they were in the back of my head. And so whenever you finish a race and those sounds start going, I'm like, oh my gosh, I like that is such a specific sound. It's such a like weird hit of nostalgia that is just excellent. And I love it at the end of every single race, that little kinking noise of your engine cooling down as you like collect your rewards is just beautiful. And so there are some things like that in this game that make me feel very positive on it overall, despite some of the frustrations with certain assets not looking great. But
Yeah. That sounds pretty kinky.
It is. It is.
Whatever you're into, I guess.
I'm not going to say, I was going to say something else, and I decided, let's stop this train right here.
Let's cut it there. So one last thing that came to mind. When you get your, when you finish certain menu objectives, you get a, what is it called? Some sort of ticket. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh,
You
yeah,
get like
yeah.
a ticket.
Yep.
And also I was opening it up and I'm like, this is totally not a loot box. And it's a loot box in game. But what I noticed is it's a terribly designed loot box. Like I can't stand the look of it. I don't know if you had any thoughts about that. This could just be me being
You mean the ticket
more of
itself,
me.
or the visuals
When you
after
open
you
it up,
open it?
when you open it up and it's like the 5 circles, and it's just like there's nothing visually like the point of a loot box, hate them as much as we do, is
Yeah.
to be very visually and sensationally pleasing. And this one is not at all. Like it's
It's very
just very
lackluster.
drab.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's lackluster and drab, and I was like, man, you guys did loot boxes terrible. Not that I really want you to do them better. So
Yeah.
um
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it, but you're right. It's pretty drab. I This is probably something else we should talk about a little bit, but the microtransactions are
yeah, it's a
present.
good
They're
segue.
not overwhelming, but they're there, and they influence the game, obviously, to some extent.
Yeah.
I've redeemed, probably 6, 7, maybe 8 of those vouchers, and it's a loot box. Like the first or second one, it landed on a brand new like Lexus, and it was way better than anything I had at that point. Like all of my cars at that point were like 250 to 300 like PP, and the Lexus
You're
was
like,
like
get out the wallet.
650. When I just landed on it, I'm like, sweet. So I had that. I was using that Lexus in some of my races and just decimating some of my opponents, and that was great. And then everyone since then, like there's usually a new car, some type of car equipment, like tuning upgrade, and then 3 different bundles of their microtransaction
Small,
currency.
medium, and large amounts of currency.
Small, medium, and large. And I think the small is like 1,000 or 5,000. The medium, I think
It's
it's like
2,000.
1,000.
I'm quite familiar with that one.
Okay, 2,000, 5,000, and then it goes up from there depending on the voucher. But for the most part, I'm just getting like 2,000 points, or occasionally I'll get like an upgrade that's like some shocks that cost 2,000 credits or whatever, which is nothing. And so
Yeah,
it's frustrating, right?
I'm
Because
glad
it's like,
it's cool you've gotten a car. I got the
I got
medium
one good
currency
thing
once, and then I've gotten the smallest currency like 4 or 5 times now, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it's funny you're describing the I love how the sum total of how good a car is when you take into account weight, handling, speed, is designated as PP. So I was cracking up to myself as I'm looking through my garage, and I'm like, all right, which one of these has the biggest PP? Looking through my car list, I'm like,
I need one that is
I'm
just
I'm in 6th
intimidating.
grade. Yes. So
Uh,
yeah, it's so
you
I
want yours to be
haven't
bigger than all the other drivers
exactly. It's just
for racing.
just yes, for racing.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed the monetization yet. I'm not far enough in the game to have noticed it. I don't have enough credits I'm not at the point where I'm purchasing cars. I hate that it's in there. We've talked a little bit about this, and I don't know. I kind of was thinking about this the other day, and actually, you know what? I think the biggest problem I have with the monetization in this game is that I was watching some video, reading some article about how in Gran Turismo Sport, the monetization was in that game. That was a mostly online focused game, right? Live service. And in that game, you could purchase cars for $2 or $3, right? Oh, I really want this car. $3, you have the car, right? That is the least egregious form of microtransactions you can have. A very modestly priced something that you can purchase outright and know what you're getting, right? Well, with Gran Turismo 7, a lot of people have been upset with the change that Sony or Polyphony, whoever is at the root of this, have made. Instead of being able to outright purchase vehicles with money, $2 or $3, right? they've employed the somewhat surreptitious model that most games do, where you spend money to purchase the currency in the game, and then that currency can be used to purchase cars, right? They try to add as many steps from the dollar or whatever currency you're using to what you're getting, in an effort to kind of disassociate your brain from what you're spending. And then also they use this as an effort to get you to spend more, because let's say I want a car that's a million credits. I don't know how this works in the game. I haven't gotten into it, but
A
they'll
lot of
have
the
a
good ones are
bundle
around that
of
price. Yeah.
sure. They'll have a bundle for 2 million credits maybe, and they don't have a
Mhm.
bundle for 1 million credits. So you
Right.
have to buy the 2 million credit bundle even though you only need a million, right? So now they've gotten you to spend more money,
It's the
um,
classic hot dog
just
problem,
inherently
right?
through the process. So
6 hot dogs, 8 buns. What do I
totally,
do
whatever
now?
that
I
is.
buy 6 more hot dogs. And now I'm 4 buns short, so I buy another 8 buns. And now the arithmetic breaks
Oh
down, but
my god. So now you have to get out your algebra and like figure out how
to
many
break even,
bundles you have to
we
buy to
need
make everything even.
58 hot dogs and buns. Yeah,
There you go.
right.
What a beautiful
No,
analogy. So yeah, totally. And a lot of people have been upset about it, just saying like this is scummy, this is greedy.
yeah.
Why change a system that people um, either tolerated or even liked in Gran Turismo Sport? Well, the answer is because more money, right? And so
Yeah.
you kind of hate to see it. It's not a good trend for Sony, and it really concerns me that whether or not this game ends up truly affecting my experience based on it. We have heard that Sony are going pretty hard on these live service games over the next 5 years, and I don't know. I think Sony has been a haven from the predatory practices of microtransactions in the past 5 to 10 years. Since they kind of really came on strong, Sony has had the games that you go to get away from that, and I think we might be starting to see an end of that era, which is a little bit sad. And we'll see where it goes, but it's not a great look here in Gran Turismo 7, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's part of the tapestry that is being woven that leads Sony away from, purely narrative driven experiences, purely, focused on non live service microtransactions. So we got Gran Turismo as an example. They acquired Bungie not that long ago. And I think the whole point of acquiring Bungie is getting better at live service. And the subtext of that is probably some element of microtransactions. Who knows how prevalent, or, if they're going to try and employ that in a heavy handed way with every game. We'll have to wait and see, but certainly it speaks to their strategic thinking, and that is in the direction of live service and microtransactions, unfortunately.
I would say
Yeah.
so.
You know, the one thing I'm bummed as a consumer and a gamer about for Gran Turismo is that I can't buy NFTs in it. I would love it if I could buy an
If only
NFT.
Ubisoft made Gran Turismo.
I would love it if I could buy an NFT of my carburetor for one of my low end cars, so that everyone on the internet knows there's some
Don't even say that.
decentralized blockchain record that says I own this. And that, my friend, is true gaming value.
Don't worry, it's coming in patch
I'm just
1.5.
I'm being facetious just for the record in case anyone gets mad, but I shouldn't say that. I feel like I'm tempting fate here, but
Yeah, don't even.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So
no,
no, but
on this. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, all complaints aside, at the end of the day, I'm glad to have a Gran Turismo, and so far, all of these complaints haven't really ruined the experience. I wish some of them were different, but I'm mostly just having fun with it. Like you said, it's a good palate cleanser. For me, it's pretty few and far between that I enjoy a racing game. It's kind of been Gran Turismo for me, and then I fell off for quite some years, and Forza just isn't really my style. It's too much of like we're just having a party 24/7. Here's a car, here's another car, here's the fastest car you've ever seen, like all in the first 10 minutes, and it's just a rave of cars. And I can understand the appeal, but for me it just doesn't quite carry as much meaning. I like the RPG style of Gran Turismo, so it's good to be back in it. I'm enjoying it. It's one I'll probably continue to play more over the next week or so, and then probably infrequently between other games throughout the year.
Yeah, I think same for me. I mean, I'm not a huge racer person, like games person either. I find Gran Turismo has this, again, kind of the eclectic and respectful vibe of the game for some reason really clicks with me. The semi RPG elements of I'm leveling up my licenses, I'm leveling up my collector level, I'm filling out my garage. I'm going through and starting, at the beginning, I'm driving a Prius, I'm driving some type of Honda, I'm driving a low end Mazda, and then working my way through American cars and Italian cars and French cars, and it's, so on and so forth. It feels like this journey and this progression that, the RPG gamer, the Metroidvania gamer, those types of things that I tend to really love. I feel like this kind of hits some of those notes, even though it's a totally different type of game. So yeah, great palate cleanser. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a very relaxing game to play. And I expect that I'll play it for the next week or two, and then kind of here and there, on out, which is what I did with Gran Turismo 3 back in the day. So I would definitely recommend it. I think it's a good game. I'm happy to have it, despite some of the disappointing aspects. It's pretty good overall.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, I've got a couple. Have you been playing anything else?
Yes. So I want to hear your things. I'll go quick because we've talked about these a fair amount. So I'm still playing Elden Ring. I'm slow rolling it because they need to fix some of the frame rate issues, particularly on PC and console. I'm playing it on PS5. But Elden Ring is so good that I find myself diving into it here and there just to keep exploring the world a little bit. So I'm probably going to just keep playing that here and there, but I'm not diving in 100% because I want to experience the majority of the game once they've got some of the patches in place. So not a whole lot more to say. It continues to be amazing / technically frustrating. State hasn't really changed. The other game I'm still playing, I think you've been playing as well, and that is Biomutant. So curious if you were going to talk about that at all.
Yeah, that's actually. I mean, I had a really busy weekend, so I didn't have as much time as usual. But I've been playing probably mostly Biomutant still because when these other games weren't in a state where I wanted to play them, I was like, I need to find something else before Gran Turismo came out. Hopped into Biomutant and was pretty blown away actually by this game. So yeah, I've been playing. That's kind of been my main game, I guess we'll say. We'll see if Gran Turismo kind of takes the 1A over the 1B situation, but I think I'm probably closing in on 20 hours into Biomutant, and
Wow.
a little bit surprised how big this game is. You could argue, much like a lot of open world games, it's a little reductive or repetitive, and at a certain point you kind of know where you're going to do. You're going here to do this, you're going there to do that, right? But I don't know, I feel like the game does such a good job of moment to moment gameplay and exploration that even though this side quest I'm doing may boil down to a fetch quest just like the last one or whatever, the characters I'm meeting and talking to, the issues they're describing to me that I'm solving with said fetch quest, as well as just the moment to moment gameplay, as I mentioned, of traversing the world and your prototypical glider that has to be in every open world game since Breath of the Wild. It all feels so good that I'm just constantly having fun while playing this game. And I've been dilly dallying pretty hard in this game. I haven't done a lot of the mainline stuff because I just have been exploring pretty much this whole time. So what's
What
that
the
you got?
heck? It looks like I just accidentally clicked on a piano option. We'll say that was
Very
intentional.
nice. Oh, I thought you were on
Our
YouTube for a
new.
second.
No, that is our new background music.
Now for our
So
relaxing music segment.
and it disappeared. I just paused it and now it's gone. So, well, that's a shame.
Weird.
So yeah,
So
that
yeah,
was
I've been
lovely.
having a blast
Continue.
with. Yeah, no, it's pretty much it. I've been having a blast with Biomutant. I think it's awesome. I love the customization. I love there's a few I'm really impressed that a smaller studio, an indie studio put this game out. It got bashed pretty hard at launch with reviews, and because of that, this was a game I really was anticipating last year. I had been anticipating it for years, and I held off because the reviews were so bad. And you know how it is with your backlog. You get
Mm-hmm.
to a point where you're like, I may never pick this game up. And I'm really glad that I've um, diven dove into it, because I've been really impressed with everything, even graphically. I don't know the state of this game on a console. I know there's no true next gen version. You can only play the PS4 or Xbox One versions on next gen. Hopefully, they can get a dedicated version out for Series XS and PlayStation 5, because I think that would be a major benefit for the studio, maybe a second wind, if you will. But on PC, this game is incredible. It's better looking than any of the. It's sadly better looking than any of the other games I've played this year. I'm continually blown away by how fantastic it looks. It runs very smoothly on my rig, and yeah, they've incorporated so many elements in this game. I think they may have overreached, was part of the problem at launch. There's so many different systems at play in this game, but I think they do all of them well enough. Like, I enjoy every system in this game for what it is, and I don't know. I feel like that's really impressive what they were able to accomplish here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm about 8 hours into it, maybe a little more, and I like it. I think I'm still in the like, not love category, but I'm pleasantly surprised because the initial reviews were not great, and it definitely, I think it deserves more attention, positive attention than it received. There are a lot of systems in place. It's a lot bigger than you'd expect. Like, I think the map is much more expansive, and especially as you start progressing through the world, you realize how much there is to explore and do, which is a positive thing for the most part. I think the different systems at play are all pretty fun by and large. I feel like I do feel the overreach a little bit in that some of the systems feel like they're maybe 70% baked, and I feel like they could, if this studio had more experience or maybe more time or resources or some combination of those things, they might have been able to better dial and combine these things. And I think sometimes there is a certain point where, as much as you have a lot of fun ideas, cutting certain things for the sake of reinforcing the center can be good as well. And so I think there are some things there that speak to maybe a studio that doesn't quite have as much experience, which is fine, right? I mean, I think, again, for a newer studio taking on an ambitious project, I'm pretty impressed. I think overall it's a lot of fun. There are a lot of different mechanics that are all enjoyable. Combat has a lot of variability depending on the build type you go for. There's melee combat, ranged combat, there's special like psionic abilities, and other types of weird quirky abilities you get. There's a variety of different types of mounts you can get. You mentioned the glider. There's like an aquatic type mount or vehicle. There's a wide variety of things to do there. And I think so far the map, I don't know, I've gone to like 4 different zones maybe. They feel a little bit different, and there's enough variability that I'm enjoying it. I found the delivery of the story to me is pretty mixed. There are moments I like it. We've talked about people complaining about the narrator, and that's part of it. I think it's not just the narrator
Have you
himself.
turned him off?
I have, but I feel like even with the narrator off, the way it speaks for the in world characters you run into is more of an omniscient narrator still. So
No,
instead of
you
someone,
haven't turned it off then. Because if you go up to a character and he's still speaking for them, you haven't turned it all the way off.
oh, okay, maybe I just dialed it down.
Yeah.
I thought I turned it
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. There's a frequency bar where you can turn down how frequently he talks while you're exploring. And then below that, there's an actual turn the narrator off button.
Does that change their like the subtitles though, like what they're saying?
No, the
Because
subtitles will still be there.
that's
And it
part of what
doesn't
I'm
bother me. No, it's
that.
actually not as bad once the narrator is gone, because then they're muttering gibberish or whatever, and you're listening to them, and then you just
Mm-hmm.
read it, and it's not as bad. Trust me. I
Yeah.
couldn't
So
stand listening to the narrator the whole time.
I don't mind the gibberish. I think part of my frustration is still it's the voice that the text is written in. Is it's less of this character talking to you and more of like this guy thinks that, like, sometimes it kind of goes back and forth, but it'll a lot of times be like, this character thinks this is a bad thing, and then it kind of talks like that. And
It's
I
very
wish
third
it,
person for sure.
it's very third person. And I wish it, like, that takes, and this is a personal preference thing. It's not egregious, but for me, that takes me out of it a little more than the character just saying, hey, I don't like this. Can you go do that? And again, I
Well,
don't care
you'll
that
have to
they're
let me know.
audibly speaking gibberish. It's that third
Right.
person thing that's kind of a disconnect. But
Once you turn it off, you'll have to let me know the impact that has, because I do think that once the narrator is not speaking, it's much less noticeable or irritating that it's written
mm,
that way. It's not as intrusive.
yeah.
So once I turned him off, I barely think about the fact that it's written that way. It just kind of feels a little
Mhm.
more quirky and a little less irritating. But
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if that fixes it for you or not.
Me too. I mean, I think overall I like this game. I feel like they're pulling a lot of different things together, and I feel like that doesn't always 100% mesh for me, just vibe wise. But for the most part, I like it. I think it's pretty good, and I have been having fun with it. Like I'm motivated to go back and play more, and I certainly think it's worth checking out and playing. I feel like this game got was kind of done dirty initially, and maybe deservedly so. I didn't play it 9-10 months ago when it came out, but everything I heard about it was like scorchingly negative, and I feel like it's good, and I think it's worth checking out.
Yeah, I think this game has potential to be niche all-time favorite game of certain people, right? Like there are those kinds of games, and as I'm playing it, for me, I'm very high on it, but it has so much personality to it. Um, I think you could go either way. You could kind of be like, or you'll love
Yeah,
this game. So, um, I would say if you have a PC and you've waited on this game, grab it and check it out. On console, your mileage will vary. I don't know if the PS4 version can run at 60 frames on the PS5. I'd have to look into that, or same with Xbox. I'm unsure. So maybe do some research on console. But yeah, I think this game is better than maybe the general sentiment gives it credit for. It might have gone a little overlooked. So yeah, I'm planning to finish Biomutant. Um, I try to play one game at a time, because I take immersion. Immersion is a big part of why I play games. I like to really get lost in a game, and I have a hard time juggling games. If there was a game I could juggle with it, it would probably be Gran Turismo, because they're so different. But yeah, my plan is to finish Biomutant. I did also check out, and this is kind of a weird one over the weekend, but I checked out. This is a game that was made as a demo for the Steam Deck, which just came out. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's called Aperture Desk Job, and it's
I
on
have
Steam.
not.
Yeah, it's free. It's free to download, and it came up on the YouTube, the old YouTube algo, and I started watching like the first minute, and I was like, oh, this is really cool, like well written. I'll just grab it instead of watching the video. And so I did last night. I didn't realize it was for the Steam Deck, and in the end, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's designed. There's certain moments where they're trying to show off features the Steam Deck has, but um, it's been fitted to work on a controller or whatever else you're playing it on. So it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It takes about a half an hour to play. It's very short, and it's weird. It's cool. I enjoyed it. It didn't overstay its welcome. It was very weird. The writing is pretty funny at times, and I believe it's set in the Portal universe, um,
Okay.
whatever that means. But it's made by Valve, and yeah, it's essentially. I mean, we've all seen short stories before a Disney movie, right? Or what are they called? Is that what they're called? Short stories. Um,
Disney
I don't know. I
Shorts.
can't think if they have a
Yeah.
different term. Disney shorts. That sounds not better, but yeah, Disney shorts. We've all seen those. This is kind of the game equivalent of that. It's like a half an hour long. Kind of makes me feel like it'd be cool if there were more of these that were just truly like a Disney short, but for games. I don't know what the market is for that. I don't know what the reason to make those games are when games are so hard to make. But it was kind of cool to sit down and have a half an hour experience that was moderately entertaining and free. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had Astro's Playroom, which was like, what, 5 hours or something? And that was an amazing experience. So I like having these too. Again, with the incentives, it seems like these often line up with a new hardware where they're trying to show things off. And so that justifies the amount of
Yeah.
engineering effort that goes into them. But it is kind of nice to have
Yep.
things like this. So I'll have to check it out.
Because yeah, I mean, a 5 hour video game, you can sell that for $20 or whatever, right? $10 even. A half an
Mm-hmm.
hour video game, that's kind of hard to market, you know.
Yeah.
So that is why we only get these when they're promoting another product, really.
Yep.
So, anyways, that was entertaining. That's pretty much all I've had time for over the weekend. I honestly got to wrap up Biomutant. I'm a little shocked how large that game is. So I need to get that done, and then actually March is going to be a pretty busy month for games after
Yeah.
everything that February got credit for. March is no slouch.
Yeah, well, and that doesn't, I don't even know if you're factoring in, like, hopefully Horizon gets some of the visual aspects patched in the next month or so. So that might become playable later in March. Let's see.
Maybe I've stopped anticipating that. I'm going to come back to it. I'll come back to it 6 months from now if I have to. I'm not, I was watching their Twitter every day for a little while. And finally I'm just like, man, it's been almost 3 weeks now and you guys still haven't fixed this performance issue. So we'll see when that becomes playable. You're right. I'm going to have to factor that in and
Yeah, I'm just saying
it'll
that's
shoot
gonna
up the
come out of
priority
nowhere.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Well, I also am going to try and finish up. I'm playing Biomutant, Gran Turismo 7, and Elden Ring. Granted, I'm slow rolling Elden, but I feel like I need to wrap up Biomutant so that I can focus a little bit more on Gran Turismo because I'm kind of in a lot of directions. But we'll see how much progress we've made next week.
When we talk about Elden Ring, Biomutant, and Gran
Gran
Turismo 7
Turismo.
again.
I can't wait. And I know all of our audience is just as excited. So thanks everyone for sticking with us all the way till the end. We appreciate you. And you know, if you liked this, feel free to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/NeverLag. And you know, if you have money to throw our way, awesome. If not, that's okay too. You can like and subscribe, you know, watch us here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. That's all good. So thanks again for watching and joining us. We'll see you next time on NeverLag.